Miku Expo is a highly anticipated event all around the world by new and old fans alike. With new locations constantly being visited, it's common that many people don't know what to expect when attending the event. So today, I'm going to be sharing tips and tricks for attending Miku Expo. First of all, what is Miku Expo? Miku Expo is the Miku World concert series that tours many different parts of the world, and it's the event that brings Miku to many overseas countries. The event started in 2014 and has been going on for 11 years now, including during lockdown. The concert features performances by all of the Krypton characters, which are Hatsune Miku, Kagamine Rin, Kagamine Len, Megurine Luka, Kaito, and Meiko. And possibly in the future there could be guest characters, as of the time this is posted, Teto featured as a guest performer for the Japan Blooming Tour in 2025, but that would all depend on rights and deals between the two companies, so it's only these characters that will 100% be at the concert. So far, the event has visited 16 countries, with 4 more about to be added to the list once Miku Expo Asia 2025 begins. And Krypton are constantly wanting to expand the event to try and bring Miku to every fan possible. There is at least one Miku Expo event every year, with some regions like the US and Europe being visited biannually, but Miku Expo doesn't happen in the same place every single year. Sometimes they visit as a one-off, like how the first Miku Expo took place in Indonesia and they haven't been back until this year, so the most frequent you can expect Miku Expo in your country is every other year, but that schedule is not guaranteed. The event also often has some sub-events going on, such as pop-up collaboration stores or Digital Stars, which is a DJ music event that invites producers big and small to perform. There used to be more, such as an exhibition and activities, but as of the return of in-person concerts in 2024, they didn't have anything like that, but it is possible it could return in the future. So now that we know what Miku Expo is, how do we get tickets? First of all, I would highly recommend following the official Miku Expo socials, as it's the best way to get informed about tour announcements and any and every other piece of information you may need to know about attending the event. And they are at Miku Expo on Twitter, Hatsune Miku official page on Facebook, and they used to have an Instagram account but it's since been deleted, but they do post Miku Expo related stuff on their CFM Mikustagram account, but they don't post as much information on this account as they do on Facebook and Twitter, but they do announce tour dates and ticket sales on this account, so it's good for the basic information. I will link these accounts in the description, but they are also listed on the Miku Expo website, aside from the Instagram, which is still linked to their old account. Once a tour is announced, a portal site will appear on the Miku Expo website, which you can click on and be directed to the information for that tour. When it is first announced, the locations and dates will be listed, but the link to the ticket sites won't be available until the tickets go on sale, which typically happens around 1 week after the tour is announced. But do be aware, even though the links on the Miku Expo website won't go live until the general sale begins, sometimes there are pre-sale periods held by the ticketing company or the venues that aren't advertised. For example, for Miku Expo London, there were 2 pre-sales I had no clue about and panicked so bad when I saw people posting they already had tickets. So just be aware and be on the lookout, as they are pretty sneaky about it, but even if you miss those periods, they don't have all the tickets available during that sale, so you will still have a good chance of getting tickets on the general sale date. You just may have to be quick about it, as tickets do sell super fast, especially if they choose a small venue. The Miku Expo website also doesn't disclose what ticketing website they use before the tickets go live, so if you want to make sure you have an account made before they go live so you don't have to rush, most ticketing sites do post about the event when it's announced, so a quick Google search of Miku Expo and the location you're wanting typically brings up the site. For the West, most of the time it's Ticketmaster or AXS, and I noticed for the Asia 2025 tour, many different ticketing sites are used. So there is no set ticketing site, but as I said, a quick search typically brings up the site that's going to be used, but you can always ask around if you're still not sure, and if you've never bought any ticket before, you can make an account while buying the ticket, as the sites typically reserve the tickets for a short period while you're in the process of buying them, so the tickets you select won't be taken from you while you make an account, unless you take too long, but usually there is a timer on screen to show how long they're being held. And different sites require different information for accounts, so all I can suggest having on hand is your phone number, email, your address, and of course the card you're going to use to buy the tickets. Once you're on the ticketing site, you will notice there are a few different types of tickets. Typically, there is 4 different types of tickets at Miku Expo, and that is VIP standing, VIP seating, general standing, and general seating. But what is the difference between general and VIP? VIP is a ticket that guarantees you will have a good view of the stage right at the front of the venue, and includes you getting early access into the venue, and also a small goodie bag with some exclusive merchandise like badges, towels, and prints. It is the most expensive ticket, averaging around $150 to $175 US, and it is the ticket you need if you want a spot spot at the barricade. General is the cheaper ticket, around $50 to $70 and it covers the rest of the venue and gets let in at the advertised door opening time. How these tickets are set out is that the front section of the floor is always VIP and the rest of the floor is general. And depending on the venue, the seats could be split between VIP and general. For example, a venue with tiered seating may have the lowest and closest seats as VIP and the rest is general, or for an arena, typically all the seats are general. So how do you know what ticket type you should go for? As someone who has witnessed the concert from a VIP view, a raised balcony view, and all the way back at the venue, I can say that the show will be amazing regardless of the ticket you get. In VIP, you get that super close view and are able to see close details of the characters, such as their expressions and all of the details of their outfit. But when I was VIP, I did get ripped off with my goodie bag, as it only had a notebook, a badge, and a cloth bracelet because they had issues with shipping. They said they'd add extra to make up for it, but where is the extra here? So if you're thinking of buying VIP just for the goodie bag, I wouldn't recommend it, as it is an expensive ticket that does come with a risk of the goods not even being there. But don't let that put you off, because this is rare to happen, and 2024's goodie bags had plenty to offer, including a fan, tote bag, a pin badge, some prints, and a sticker. So make of that what you will, but the goodie bag isn't the main selling point of the VIP ticket. It's that close-up view you won't be able to get with any other ticket. From the raised seating view, if that venue has that option, you get a different perspective of the show, as most venues don't have seating like this, and I enjoyed it as much as VIP, as I was still super close, and it didn't have any effect on the illusion, and in fact even aided the illusion to look like they were actually there. And from my spot at the back of the venue, I admit I could not see the details of the characters very much, if at all, even with the aided brightness of the LED screen, but the concert was still fun and amazing, with the stage lights possibly disrupting you more than if you were closer to the front, but even then most of the time it was fine. So it really depends on the experience you want to take from the concert. If you want to admire the characters for their details, VIP would be the way to go, but if you just want to go and vibe, any spot in the venue will work. But as we all know, Miku and the others are just a projection on a screen. A screen, when viewed from the side, will make the images look flat. So do be aware of that before you buy a seat ticket that's on the side, or go to stand on the far side of the floor. The illusion isn't going to be perfect, and the characters will look a little flat. Krypton purposely doesn't sell tickets that would put you in the very far side because they know this, but unless you are in the direct middle of the stage, there will be some distortion, but don't let it stop you from buying tickets, as it will be a good show regardless. It's just something to be aware of if you're wanting to get the perfect view. But if you buy a seated ticket, if the ticket is for a seat on the main floor like this, be aware that people stand in this section, and for most venues you are allowed to stand in this section for the entirety of the concert. So if you want a seated ticket to sit, you need to buy a seated ticket that's not on the main floor, and if you do buy a seated ticket anywhere else in the venue that's not on the floor, please do not stand, as not only can it be dangerous depending on the venue, but there are people who purposely buy seated tickets because they cannot or do not want to stand. So please do not be the person that stands in the seated section and blocks the view of those behind you. If you want to stand and dance, please purchase a floor ticket, and if there aren't any floor tickets available and your only option is a seated one, please respect those around you and stay seated. I know it's very controversial about standing in seated tickets at a concert, with arguments saying why you're at a concert if you're not going to dance, but people buy seated tickets for a reason, because they can't or don't want to stand. So please just be respectful and stay seated. Also, if you're short or shorter than the average person in your country, I would not recommend getting a ticket on the floor, as even if the floor is set out with seating, people will stand, and I've heard so many people saying they couldn't see the stage at all. So I would recommend, unless you are 100% confident you'll get barricade, you should get a seated ticket that's not on the floor, as people shouldn't be standing in those sections and should be raised enough for you to be able to see. If you buy a standing, I would hate for you to get there and realize you cannot see over people at all. A seated ticket may not be the spot that you want, but at least it will guarantee that you can see. Now that you have your ticket, when should you arrive at the venue? Now this will depend on the type of ticket that you bought. When you arrive at the venue, there will be multiple different lines, but the core lines are the VIP line and the general line. If you have a VIP ticket, you get let inside the venue 30 minutes before the general ticket holders, so it typically doesn't matter how early you get in line, as the VIP ticket already guarantees you get a good spot, but you need to get inside the venue before that 30 minutes is up. If you don't, you're at risk of not getting into the VIP section. This is because once the doors open for the general ticket holders, they will start filling up the remaining space, and it will be practically impossible to determine if you're VIP or general because everyone is now mixed together. Some venues, the VIP section is marked off, so it could be possible for you to squeeze through and show them your badge to be allowed in, but most do not have that barrier, and once generals start coming in, it's basically like a swarm and you won't be able to get to the front. So I urge you to make sure that you get inside the venue during that 30-minute period, because I saw too many people during the 2024 concerts saying they weren't able to get into the VIP section because they either got there late or stayed in the merch line long after that period. And no one should have to be stuck in the general section when they paid so much more to get that closer spot. Generally though, if you get inside during that 30-minute period, you will get a good spot since it is VIP. I rocked up about 30 minutes before the doors opened and got a good spot in the middle around 4 to 5 people back, and that was an amazing view. But on the other hand, a friend of mine started lining up at 6 AM around 11 hours before VIP doors opened to get the central barricade spot. But unless you're crazy and also have a really thought out plan for drinking and eating while waiting in line that long, I wouldn't recommend it because that is a very long time to wait outside. And if we compare our experiences, he waited 11 hours for that central spot while I only waited 30 and I was only 4 or 5 people behind him. I personally don't see it as worth it, as 4 or 5 people behind is a really good view, probably just as good or better than barricade, and the only benefit of lining up that early is getting barricade, as VIP guarantees you a good spot at the front anyway. So unless you want barricade and have a super good plan of what you're going to do while waiting in line, I'd recommend getting there an hour early if you're still worried, but as long as you get inside during that 30-minute period, I assure you, you will have a good view. And also, if you're planning to start lining up super early, some venues do not allow you to line up until a certain time, so that is something that you will need to check if you're going to try to attempt that. If you have a general ticket, this line tends to be a lot longer. If you have a general seating ticket and you chose the seat, you do not have to get to the venue super early, as your spot is guaranteed no matter what time you walk into the venue. But if you have a general seating ticket that you did not select the seat for, you will have to start lining up a little earlier, as it will be first come first serve for the seats. And I remember for London 2020, they actually oversold the seated tickets, so a lot of people were left standing at the back of the balcony. It will depend on how many seats are available, but I got there around an hour early and most of the section was still quite empty. But if you have a general standing ticket, you will have to get to the venue quite early, as the area for general standing is quite large and people start lining up super early to try and get the best spot they can behind the VIP section. So if you're aiming to get that spot behind VIP, I would recommend getting in line at least 4 or 5 hours before the doors open. And if you do, you still need a plan for what you're going to do waiting in line, because it's still a very long time to be outside. But if you cannot or don't want to try for that spot, even though the view from the back of the venue isn't as detailed as the front, it is still an amazing experience. And often, the back of the standing floor can be quite empty, so there is a lot of space if you're just wanting to vibe and dance around. So it all depends on the type of ticket and experience that you want from the concert, but the main thing is, if you have VIP, you have to make sure you get in during that 30-minute period before the general ticket holders come in, because there is a chance you may not be able to get the VIP spot you paid for. And if you're planning to line up super early, you need to make sure you take care of yourself, make sure you are hydrated and have a plan for food, as while my friend did get that barricade spot, he was very close to fainting, and I don't think anyone wants to wait that long and end up fainting during the concert. So please take care of yourself and make sure you have a well thought out plan, and if you don't think you can manage it, please take the risk and arrive a little later. A spot further back is better than fainting and missing the concert. Now, for questions about what bags you're allowed to take inside the venue, or if you're allowed to take food or drink in the venue, you have to check with your specific venue's rules, as each and every venue differ slightly for what they do and don't allow. The venue websites often have an FAQ page, which states what they do and don't allow. For example, the venue for the Singapore show of Miku Expo Asia 2025 says there is absolutely no filming or taking pictures, and no outside food or drink are allowed. If the venue's website doesn't specify what size of bags they don't allow, generally the rule is no bag bigger than an A4 size piece of paper or 8 by 11 inches. I know a general rule for venues is they don't allow huge backpacks, but if you're wanting to take an eater bag, as long as it's on the smaller side, it should be fine. And if you're still worried because they don't have an answer for the question you have, you can always send an email to the venue with your question. And I also highly recommend wearing earplugs because the concert can get really loud, especially if you're right at the front. I know most people disregard them or just think, oh, it's only a Miku concert, it can't be that bad. Please protect your hearing because I promise it does get loud. My ears were ringing after all 3 shows I've been to, and I've only now learnt my lesson, so please protect your ears unless you want Mako completely shattering your eardrums with her high notes. But with the concerts also come merchandise, and the one item everyone wants to get their hands on, the Lightstick. So how do you get it? Merch for each tour are made available online a couple months before the tour begins, with it being a pre-order or a pre-sale. And it is then also sold on the day of the concert at the venue. The merch lineup will be posted on the Miku Expo account, along with the date and time the pre-orders start, and you can find the site by going to the webpage for the tour and clicking on the goods tab, which should redirect you to the website once it's online. If it's described as a pre-order rather than a pre-sale, there will only be a short window for you to order, so you need to make sure you order in that time. Otherwise, your only other choice is to line up at the in-person merch stall on the day of the concert. Typically, pre-orders ship out 1 to 2 weeks before the tour starts, which has led to some people not getting merch sometimes due to individual carriers having shipping delays, but most of the time the merch does come on time. But even with this, I do highly recommend pre-ordering your merch because it guarantees you get the merch you want, whereas when you wait to purchase merch at the concert, it's more of a gamble, as they may sell out before you get there. The in-person merch stall is set up at every concert, with sales typically starting around 2 PM, but where it is set up it depends on the venue and the weather, which is another reason to follow the Miku Expo socials, as they always post when and where the merch stall can be located. But usually it is between being set up outside the venue or inside. People start lining up for the merch quite early, most of those people gunning for the Lightstick, as it is the quickest piece of merch to sell out, so I would recommend, if you're taking the gamble to get the Lightstick at the in-person merch stall, you have to get there at least 2 hours before the merch sale starts, which is why I recommend pre-ordering, as you could line up for hours and then once you get to the stall, the item is sold out. And a disclaimer, the VIP ticket does not allow you early access to the merch stall. I've seen many people misinterpret the ticket and believe it allows first dibs on the merch, but that is not the case, and you will need to get there early if you want first grabs. The New Zealand and Australia 2024 VIP ticket did allow a separate VIP merch line, but this isn't usually the case, and for Miku Expo Asia 2025 for example, it does clarify the VIP do not get early access to the merch, so if you're not completely certain what your VIP ticket grants you, scroll down on the website of the tour you're attending to see what perks you get. But back to the merch line, it can get super long, and you will have to prepare to be standing in it for quite a long time. And if the stall is outside, sometimes they will continue sales after the doors open, so make sure to check the time so you don't miss out on the concert by still waiting in line for the merch. So once more, I cannot recommend pre-ordering enough because I feel like it takes so much stress out of the day of the concert, knowing you can enjoy your time without worrying you won't be able to get the merch you want. And know that official merch will only be sold in the official merch stall or within the venue, as often, at least in the West, there are people that create fake merch and try to sell it to you outside the venue when the concert is finished. Please do not buy from these people, as most of the time they aren't even cheaper than the official merch. The official Miku Expo merch sellers will never be standing around holding posters or have t-shirts laid out on the floor. They will only be selling in the pop-up merch stall outside or using the venue's inside merch booth. Now let's circle back to the Lightstick. You will notice on the website it states that it is against the rules to bring non-official Lightsticks to the concert, as they will interfere with the show. Now this was a very controversial point in 2024 due to the switch to the LED screen. The brightness of non-official Lightsticks wouldn't affect the show like it would with a projector screen setup. Technically you can bring non-official Lightsticks to the concert, but I would not recommend it, just for the sole reason that non-official ones are much brighter than the official ones, because Krypton purposely dims them down so they do not interfere with the projector screen. At the point of making this video, it is very unclear if they will continue to use the LED screen or switch back to the projector setup. If it is still the LED screen, then the brightness of the Lightsticks doesn't really matter, unless they are super bright like I've seen some of them be, to a point they essentially blind those around you, so I wouldn't take those ones. But if the projector setup returns, I would highly recommend not taking unofficial ones, as their brightness will interfere with the show. Krypton doesn't put this rule here just because they want you to buy their Lightstick, but it's because because their lightstick is intentionally dimmer to not interfere with the show as much as possible, because the glare of the lightsticks can be super distracting with the official ones, so I'm scared to think of what much brighter lightsticks would do. But there isn't anything physically stopping you from taking unofficial lightsticks. Even though it is a rule, most venue security don't know the strict difference between them, and typically will only take them off you if the lightstick is above the approved item size you're allowed to take into the venue, which depends on the venue, but if it's bigger than the official lightstick, which is 25 centimeters or 10 inches, do be aware it could be taken from you. So while you can technically take non-official lightsticks in, I am one of the people that say do not do it if the projector setup returns. I do understand that the official lightstick is super expensive for what it is, but there are alternatives instead of going straight to the non-official ones. The main one being chemical glow sticks, which used to be the official lightstick of Miku concerts before they switched, and they even used to give them out for free at some shows in the past. So while it can't change colours, it is a solid alternative to switch to, but just know it cannot be over 15 centimeters or 6 inches long, and to also check your venue's rules, as the New Zealand and Australia 2024 venues did not allow chemical glow sticks because they aren't environmentally friendly, but most venues do allow them, and it's the best and cheapest alternative to using the lightstick. But people also cheer with their hands, plushies, or even use their phone screen with screenshots of all the different colours that they swipe through. If you're wanting to take a K-pop lightstick and it's quite large or has big pieces, I'd advise against it because it could possibly be confiscated for being too big. And if you're still wanting to take the cheap non-official lightsticks, I would recommend trying to dim it down as much as you can so it does not interfere with the screen as much as possible, like stuffing something small like a cloth inside the tube. Of course, all of these points will likely be irrelevant if they continue to use the LED screen for all future shows, but if they do ever switch back, I ask you ensure to explore every other option before just turning to the cheap bright lightstick, because unlike some people saying the glare isn't a problem anymore, it very much is, and the brightness of your lightstick does matter. And I'd hate for us to finally get the projector setup back, only for none of us to be able to see Miku because she's completely blocked out by the reflection of non-official lightsticks. But now you have your lightstick, you're worried you have no idea how to cheer like they do in the concert videos. Honestly, the cheers and chantings are quite simple, but my best advice is to not stress about it and just go with the flow. You don't have to try and memorize the cheers for each and every song. By just watching the concert videos, you can pick up a pattern of the types of waving and cheers that are used for different parts of songs. Such as in slow parts of a song, people typically wave from side to side, and other songs you even copy the character's movements. But if you really want to try and get this down, I'd highly recommend watching this video by No Miku No Life, as he explains and demonstrates the different types of chants and what parts of the song it's used for, and even demonstrates with a few songs so you can see the one-on-one perspective of what you need to do, which is really helpful to understand what an individual does in the crowd. And he does mention how you can and likely will hit someone on the head with your lightstick. I am unfortunately guilty of that too, but just make sure you apologise and hopefully they will understand. And another thing to note in this video is that you can notice for the majority of the time, other than the louder cheers, his lightstick remains at shoulder level. This is important to do, as if you keep it above your head for the majority of the time, not only will your arm get tired very quickly, but it also blocks the view of those behind you if you're constantly holding it up. So just remember to be mindful of those around you to not block their view while you're cheering, and keep your lightstick at shoulder height, aside from those quick louder cheers. Even then, if you're still worried, please don't. You're here to have fun, and if you're behind other people, you can often copy them, and if you're at the front and worried people are going to be reliant on you to know what to do, don't worry. There is typically always a superfan right at the front of the crowd that knows what to do. I remember in 2018, we were all over the place not knowing what to do, until suddenly we hear a loud voice over the music shouting the chant, and we all instantly followed along with them. It was honestly crazy how quickly that guy synced us all back up. So please don't worry about it. It's supposed to be a fun thing, and you could just be shaking your lightstick in one spot the entire time and it'd be fine. But I really do recommend this video if you want to learn, as it shows a perspective you cannot get from the concert videos, and I think he shows and explains it really well if you did want to learn and pick up the patterns. If you want to cosplay for the concert, you absolutely can. There is no dress code, and people have always cosplayed at the concerts, including characters that aren't even Vocaloids. There's only a couple of things you have to mind when doing so, the main one being to be aware of how much room your cosplay takes up, because otherwise it will encroach on other people's space. Remember, you're attending a concert, so as long as your silhouette isn't big, like having a big hoop skirt or a really big headpiece, you'll be completely fine. If your cosplay does have a headpiece though, I would suggest taking it off before the concert starts, so you're not blocking people's views behind you. If you're wearing a rinbo, that should be fine and small enough, but if it's taller than that, like really big bunny ears, I would take them off just to ensure you aren't in anyone's way. If you're not used to cosplaying, I recommend that you choose something comfortable to go in, as you're going to be standing around for a really long time, and the last thing you need is your head constantly itching or fabric scratching you when you're trying to enjoy the show. But the main thing I would recommend is comfortable shoes, especially if you have a standing ticket, because you're going to be on your feet for a really long time. I made the mistake when I cosplayed in 2018, and after the show I was basically hobbling because my feet were so sore. And if you're planning to be jumping around a lot, I would put a few extra pins to secure your wig, because many people find them falling off, including my friends who fell off just 2 or 3 songs in and just gave up putting it back on and just threw it on the floor. And do be prepared to find your wig quite messy afterwards, especially those Miku pigtails. As long as your costume is respectful to those around you, you're clear to wear it, just make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Unlike Magical Mirai, where a few songs that will be performed get released in advance, that doesn't really happen for Miku Expo. It may be possible in the future they will tease some songs, like how they did for the Japan Blooming tour, but for right now, it's not something that happens. And the setlist remains a complete mystery until the tour begins. The only songs that will be revealed and confirmed is the event's theme song and the contest winning song if there was a contest held for that tour. So if you're going to the very first show of the tour, you'll be going in completely blind. But if you're going to any other show of that tour, you will be able to find out the setlist after that first show finishes. But bear in mind, around 2 or 3 songs will differ as they rotate the setlist after every show, with there being a maximum of 3 different setlists being rotated. For example, for the North America 2024 tour, songs 11, 12 and 13 were the songs that rotated, changing between these songs and creating 3 different setlists. It could also be possible in the future for each location to have their own exclusive song that doesn't play at any other concert of the tour, like they do at the Japan tour, but so far that hasn't happened yet. But how do you prepare for the setlist when it doesn't get revealed at all? Well, the best way to prepare is to look at the setlist of the concert that happened before your tour to see what kind of songs they perform these days. Mainly to look at the setlist of the most recent Magical Mirai, as the new songs that they perform there have a very high chance of performing again. For example, Magical Mirai 2024 happened just before the Europe 2024 tour, and both New Human Race and Lost and Found were performed at the Europe tour, which had just live debuted at Magical Mirai. So for example, for Miku Expo Asia 2025, I would recommend looking at Magical Mirai 2025, the Japan Blooming Tour 2025, Miku Expo 2024, Magical Mirai 2024, and even Magical Mirai 2023, especially if you're very unfamiliar with the newer songs they perform these days, because more likely than not, the setlist will be filled with more newer stuff than older stuff. Unfortunately, they can't keep the same old setlist with the same 17 to 18-year-old songs anymore. You can hope for a classic song, as they usually do pull out an old song or two, but it will mostly be filled with newer stuff, so make sure you catch up with the newer stuff unless you want to be disappointed. The only highly confident guesses you can make is for Tell Your World, which so far has performed at every single Miku Expo to date, and World Is Mine. Even though it did skip the Euro 2024 tour, it still has a very high chance of performing, especially if the tour is going somewhere they've never been to before or haven't been to in a very long time. And there is always at least 1 or 2 songs that performed at the most recent Magical Mirai to look out for, but other than that, that is all you can do to prepare before the first show of the tour. Are you allowed to record at Miku Expo? Some people say yes, you can, and others say you can't. So what is the truth? I believe the allowance of recording differs between each concert and region. Like how we always see footage from North America and Europe, but never any fan footage from Asia. So how do we know that recording is allowed at the Miku Expo you're attending? First is to check the Miku Expo socials to see if they state to not record, like how they posted not to before the Vancouver show of 2024 because they were professionally recording it, and also check the venue you're attending because they may state if they allow recording or not. But the main thing to look out for is just before the show. Before every Miku Expo, there is a little announcement before the show starts, which goes over the rules for the event. And when I recorded my London 2024 footage, I just about managed to catch this part of the announcement.
Refrain from using audio or video equipment other than your mobile phone.
Essentially, it states you can record and take photos, but only with your phone and no professional equipment. So the main key to know if you can record or not is by listening to the announcement. So yes, Miku Expo is allowed to be recorded, but it depends on concert to region, so you'll just have to keep an eye and ear out for any announcement that says otherwise. For concerns about additional events that happen alongside Miku Expo, such as Digital Stars, I can't give many tips as I've never attended anything other than the main concert, but All the information you'll need will be posted on the official Miku Expo socials once those events are announced. But you will also find that fans often organise their own events during the tour periods, such as after parties after the concert. So that is something to be aware of if you're wanting to attend one of these, as it will be an amazing way to meet and chat with other fans. But you do just have to be aware that these are fan organised events, not official ones. And while this fandom is lovely, it's never too wrong to be cautious, because these events aren't official and don't have as much precautions or security as an official event does. If you're unsure if an event is fan-made or official, check the official Miku Expo socials. If they have posted about it, it is official. If not, it's fan-made. But other than that, all I can say is enjoy the concert. Whether you're going with friends, family, or on your own, I promise you'll have such a wonderful time. The community is so nice and welcoming, and it's a great way to meet and befriend others that love Miku just as much as you. I promise you could likely approach anyone in line and they'd be happy to talk to you. Many people also like to hand out freebies in line, which is something you can do, but be aware some venue security might not allow it, but most of the time you're fine to do so as long as you're not selling anything or trying to pass off as an official Miku Expo merchandiser. As someone who is really introverted, I can tell you that this fandom is so welcoming and cheerful, and any nervousness you might have about the concert or trying to make friends will instantly go away once you get there. Please remember to put your health first. Like I said, if you're planning to wait in line for multiple hours, make sure you have a plan for food and water, and that you check the weather conditions on the day, because the last thing you need is getting frostbite or heat stroke by waiting outside for so long. Do make sure to stay hydrated and to have some food, because you will need the energy, and if at any point you feel unwell or need help, I'm certain you can ask anyone around you and they will try to help to the best of their abilities. Even in the middle of the concert, if you signal to people something isn't right, I'm sure they will try to help you or part the way so you can get out of the crowd. I know it's tempting to do everything to get that best spot, but please prioritize your health. I hope this video helped you, but if there are any other questions or worries you have about attending Miku Expo, leave it down in the comments and I and many others who have been to the concerts will answer and help you the best we can. But I wish you all the best and hope you have fun at the concert.